Thank you very much for your time. 11 people in the room. I'm glad, and with that, I'm very happy with that. This is my seventh time presenting in TDC. I just love this event, but it's the first time that I present in English, so it's an honor to be part of this story. Uh, I want to present to you two stories that have happened on my career, and these two stories have defined the way that I'm working and the professional that I have become, and the future that I'm still envisioning to grow. It's interesting that the title of this speaking, that the best way of learning is teaching, is it's a little bit of my history and things that I have learned, not because of I have pursued it, but things have happened, and then I got the opportunities to grow and to use this path with the things that have happened. So I want to take you back to 2009 to tell my first story. And the logo that you see on the top left, it's not because I cheer for Internacional, although this is true. It's because in 2009, so back then, I was um, hired as a business analyst to be working with the process for the associates in the stadium. So the cleaning process, the ticket selling process, the entry of the associates in the stadium were part of the process, and all those processes were to be mapped in order to improve all these process and get the ISO certification that time. And when I was doing this work with other colleagues and other professionals in the soccer team, I had the chance to meet a lot of people and a lot of companies in IT and in Porto Alegre, especially. And in these companies, one of these companies have reached to me one day in 2009 and said, there is a training that we are promoting in Rio Grande do Sul, and we see you as a professional, and we would like you to teach these classes of business analysis. Back then, I was not aware about business analysis. That was the first time that I hear the term business analysis. And honestly, when I answered the phone, I was thinking that they were offering me the training of business analysis, but it was the opposite. Actually, they were inviting me to give these classes. So I asked for more information. What is the theory behind of these? And then I got to know the BA Bach and all the theory. So I asked for 3 months of studying and also to write my material to present. It would be the first time giving classes, regular classes for IT professionals, developers, project managers, and analysts. So I accept the challenge because I thought, okay, besides my work that I'm doing, I'm going to expose to a new thing to teach people about business analysis, and also will give me the opportunity to get to know more people. But what have happened, and this is the first chapter of this presentation, is that I have got much more than I was expecting giving these classes. I I'm still teaching the classes of business analysis and other also other knowledge areas, but so far I have teach more than 100 classes, and I have learned, and this is my top one learning of these, is that when you teach, you learn more than your students. And I was reflecting about that, why this is happening, because when you are teaching, you have a level of knowledge that is enough to say that, not that you know a lot or that you know everything, but the room to improve or the room to learn is small. But this is further from the truth. Actually, the there is no boundaries for the knowledge. There is no boundaries for the connections and interconnections between the knowledge areas. and things are still growing and developing. So the class that I delivered in 2009 is way different and way more boring than the class that I'm doing right now in 2021. So I teach more because of the love of teach, to see people growing and understanding things that are sometimes complex when you are starting the career, but also because I keep challenging myself to keep learning, to keep developing, to keep reading, to have the chance to discuss and to learn new context. But the learning process through teaching is not uh, what an A to B. It's not that direct point. It's a cycle. It's not a line. It's not a straight line. What I want to say is that in order to teach something to anybody professionally or even personally, if you are teaching your child or your friends, you need to have a background. You need to have some knowledge to deliver, to teach. And it's different, the knowledge, the level of knowledge and understanding, more than knowledge, that you need to have in order to teach. What I want to say is that if you study for yourself is one thing, but if you study to teach is another thing. I have created a rule for myself that when I am creating a new training or a new material, I have a 3-to-1 rate, which means that if the training sessions are about 30 hours, I need to study 90 hours about the training, even if it's a training that I already delivered frequently. The times that I have uh, dedicated less time, because sometimes these have happened, the times that I have dedicated less time than the 301 rate, the class was not so good. I felt the lack of a gap, something that I could connect better, an understanding that could be more expand. But that's okay. This is part of the learn on this cycle. When you identify the challenge that you have passed through the class, the questions that you were not able to answer right away, or the discussions that I was not able to facilitate at the time. So then the learn process happened, and then I put myself again on the process of study, teach, learning. And back in early 2019, I started to give classes virtually. Before COVID, I was only giving classes in person. And this was a challenge because although the knowledge is the same, the approach is totally different. And the connections with the students are different and hard to have. So I have created some techniques, have developed some techniques and used and tested some techniques that I learned. And it's interesting that sometimes the same technique that worked really well in one class will not work in another class. So I make jokes with my wife that sometimes I have a class of 20 students, and my my main student is really the camera and the microphone, because nobody says something, nobody open the camera, they just agree with I'm asking, and then I keep pushing, keep instigating them to participate. And then sometimes the class is about a week, so 5 days, and only on the last day people start to moving, talking, speaking. And then when I see the comments, the class was good, they really enjoyed the class. But I don't know, sometimes I actually I believe that the students sometimes put in themselves in a comfortable position where I'm listening and I'm receiving. But as a matter of fact, we know for a fact that when you participate, when you collaborate, when you share, when you discuss, is where the real learning happens. And why teaching is the best way for learning when you have knowledge, when you have an initial background. I got this theory base from the source that is at the bottom of the presentation. This source is about how kids learn and the 12 ways of kids learning. But doesn't change too much from kids to adults. The theory is still the same, maybe in a different percentage or frequency, but it's still valid. It's interesting that I was not able to find how adults learn, but only how kids learn. So does it mean that adults cannot learn anymore? I don't think so. But uh, when you teach something to somebody, you see that you navigate through all those areas. You have the visual sensor, you have the ear sensor, the tactile sensor, because you have papers, you have the digital tools, you have the kinesthetic with movements, with expression. We have the step by step when you do a theory and do the steps to complete an exercise. So it's different than other ways of learning, such as reading. That is a very important tool to learning. But when you are reading, you are reduced to some of the sensors that you have. But when you are teaching, you are exposing all the all the sensors to work. The second story that I want to tell you about why the best way of learning is teaching is in another company, DuPont Pioneer, where I have worked in US. And back then in 2013, 2014, after only 3 months of project, there was some restructure at the beginning of the year, and they have moved the project from contractors to FTE, to employees. And I was part of this change because it was my first time working in US as a business analyst in a global company with no Brazilian colleagues, only Americans and Indians. I was disappointed, but that's okay. It's very common in US, in North America, to have short periods of contract, and this is something that I have learned that time. But at the same time, I was excited to had that opportunity in my area as a business analyst. And I talked to my manager when she gave me the news that I would be dismissed, and she gave me two options. I can finalize, I can end your contract next Monday, or I can give you 2 weeks more and you do the knowledge transfer to an employee. That would be really nice for you also to, well, keep the doors open in case we need you. So I really would appreciate if you dedicate your next 2 weeks preparing and doing this knowledge transfer instead of just accepting your resignation. And I said, okay, although I was really pissed, sorry for the word, uh, I accept. Let's do this knowledge transfer. Knowledge transfer is basically you prepare the material of the knowledge that you are working, and you transfer this. You present to somebody else. You teach somebody else about the work that you are doing. And the thing is that the 2 weeks, I knew that the 2 weeks would be really intense. So imagine that this was on Thursday, and the sessions would start on Monday. And it was not the entire day because he had some constraint on his schedule. So I knew that I would have to prepare some very good material, some very visual material and support for the week, because the scenario that I was working, the project was really complex and very specific. And I'm not saying from an IT perspective, but from a business perspective, I passed the previous months having hard time to understand. So I knew that I had to prepare material, a good material that could be understood. And also I had to understand the scenarios that I was having a hard time to understand so far. So, okay, I have to study like hell. I have to prepare something really good this weekend. So I use my personal time to prepare at home something good that I would understand that this is a good material and anybody could understand from basic step to a more advanced level. And that's where the second trigger or the second discovery have happened with me. all the effort of preparing that material to teach somebody with zero knowledge about the process made me understand better the process in a way that I was not even expecting to understand. It's weird, but I was when I was leaving the company, I was able to understand what I was doing 100%. And it's similar to a imposter syndrome, but at the opposite. Wait, I know what I'm doing here. I know what is this about, and I was so happy with that because either way, regardless who would receive the material or the presentation that I was preparing, I was happy even before starting the sessions. And the result was totally worth. Besides this sense of fulfillment, uh, the business analyst that I have teach is Chad Johnson, and he gave me his permission to share the testimonial in my LinkedIn area that he have posted there. So John is a solid business analyst that goes the extra mile to really understand the business well. Many BAs know they want and maybe some of the how. What we noted on our pioneer team as how well he digs and really understand the why to a very high degree, which is rare. He is a great teacher, a constant learner, and a very detailed analyst. He's a fine addition to any team. And also, as you can see, he was also trying to help me on my next job assignment. So what I could understand or conclude from these two stories, it was not in my job responsibility. So it was not in my job responsibility to go the extra mile and apply for a second job as a business analyst to teach uh, a class of students that I didn't know who they are. I could stay in my comfort zone, and also I could accept the resignation and just leave instead of having 2 more weeks for knowledge transfer. There was no material ready to be used. So again, I was not on my comfort zone. I have to prepare and study something to deliver something in a good quality. People with different backgrounds. Chad in the second company, I didn't know until Monday when we start the sessions. And every single class is a different set of students. It was out of the comfort zone, uh, absolutely. And it would be okay if I stay there. The difference that I would not grow. Provide deeper understanding of the knowledge presented. I was the one that was receiving the best of that studying, not who have received the knowledge. Of course, that there is the benefit of having classes, but I believe that the best and the higher benefit is who is teaching, and could not take for granted that would work. This is interesting. Although I'm giving classes for a while now, every single class is different and it's always a challenge, and I'm always concerned about how people will react, if they will like, if they will understand, and most important, if they will be able to use the knowledge, the tools and techniques and everything else in their practice day by day during their work. And the same for Chad. I prepared the knowledge transfer without knowing him, so there was a risk that he would say, especially because we need to understand that I I was a Brazilian working in a US company doing a knowledge transfer to an American. And there are some bias there, but it went everything smooth. Thanks God. And so I want to finish this presentation with a message that I like a lot from Confucius. That is, I see and I forget. I hear and I remember. I do and I understand. And that's my understanding why there are so many training applicants for thousands of areas, but just a few really put in practice and really make difference. It's because people go there, watch, listen, but don't practice that. So the knowledge will wane or will go away after the sessions.